Hey Gear Seekers, I'm Nick. I wanted to make a pretty quick and short video today, just talking about something that I thought about and discovered as I was trying to plan out and choose the right case for the encoding box for our whole new streaming setup. Now, there aren't many cases on the market that have that kind of servery slash workstation aesthetic in a nice form factor. So I did what I always do, and I was Googling a bunch of cases, and then under the desk in my office, I realized I might actually already own the perfect case, except it needs a few modifications to get it there. So what I'm gonna do in this video is show you how to basically convert the Silencio S600 from Cooler Master that a lot of people had things to say about airflow and just overall design, me included. Like, my biggest gripe with it was the power supply shroud and it actually not allowing you to install larger power supplies. So in this video, I'm gonna fix that, and I'm going to remove the front of the case, and I'm going to add something to that basically add some functionality back to the case that we remove by taking out a part of the basement. So let's keep this video as short and as sweet as possible and do a little case mod on the Cooler Master Silencio S600. Yeah, let's do it. The Silencio S600 has this magnetic swinging hinge door that basically closes the front of the case off. It's got some acoustic treatment in the front of it to make this a quiet case, hence why it's called the Silencio. But I mean, even though it's got this gap, and I'll see if I can move the camera so you can see how big it is, it's not quite as adequate as you would think for high performance parts. Now, I had a Threadripper system in here as just like a little tinkering computer for a little while, and it was fine for that. But because this is going to be filled with capture cards and a beefy GPU and another Threadripper system, that's right, where our encoding machine is obviously going to be using Threadripper because it's the perfect machine to encode multiple 4K streams. And this is something that you can do out of the box anyway, is all you'd need to do is just swing that door open, and there's only 2 screws holding this in. See if we can do this at the weird angle that I'm at. And yes, I had a haircut today. It was getting a bit long. Okay, well, if the screw, well, sometimes the magnetism on the screwdriver decides that it doesn't want to be magnetic anymore. And already you can see that now you have an open front case. And I actually talked to Cooler Master about this idea earlier today, and they said, you're basically recreating the NR600, and I said, well, no, because there are a few subtle differences, because the NR600 comes in a few different versions. First of all, with the NR600, even though it does have a mesh front, you don't have a removable filter that you can easily pull out and clean. Yes, you can wipe the front of the actual case off, but there's no removable filter. So I do like that I have that option now. And other than that, it actually looks like a workstation like this. So if you look back to, let's say, the early 2000s and the late 90s to how Antec was making their workstation cases, this is kind of similar to the look of that, right? And that's why I like it. Now, the other thing that makes this case really interesting to me is because we're going to be removing something that potentially interferes with how much storage you can have in the case, we're gonna put something back in the case to counteract that. For the build that we're going to be doing for our encoding box, and because it's basically a encoding server, I don't need to see inside of it, so it will have that solar panel, which I already have. So let's just pull this panel off, and I just want to show you what we're actually going to do to make this a more versatile case. One of the biggest problems I had with this case, because I was using the NR600, which is essentially a very similar case, it's based on the same chassis, was you are very limited by the size of the power supply that you can fit in your system. And it's funny because the Silencio S400 and the NR400 didn't have this problem, which is crazy to me considering they're smaller cases, but they're built on a different chassis. But that aside, it doesn't really matter. What we're going to do is, actually before I go on, I just want to give you an example of a regular sized high performance power supply fitting in this case, right? Look. it doesn't fit, right? And that was my biggest gripe. I actually got this to fit in my NR600, and yeah, I'll show you what I did to get that to fit essentially. Basically what we're going to do is remove this panel. And if you've never removed panels inside of cases before, it's not too hard. All you need is a drill and a drill bit so you can drill out some rivets, and that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to remove this, but by removing this, we actually remove us being able to put in 3.5-inch drives, which is fine because I don't have any drives for this machine to do this anyway. And because workstations will now typically have access to network attached storage or a SAN or just network based storage. So you don't need to have that much local storage in your system. So with that said, let's pull out this panel, and then we're going to show you how easily this quite regular sized power supply will fit in after that. So let's get physical. Just exercise common sense and caution and just be safe. If you need to wear eye protection, I would suggest wearing it because we're going to be cutting metal. But right now, yeah, I'm just going to YOLO it. I'm sorry for those out there who don't agree with what I'm about to do, but too bad. This needs to be done quickly, and I'll try and do it as safely as possible. Now all we're doing is we're removing 2 rivets on the bottom and 2 on the inside. So basically you just want to get a drill with a decent sized drill bit, and now one other tip I wanted to give you before you proceed with drilling out rivets on cases in your own systems is make sure you clean it properly, because if there's even one little flake of metal that goes across any conductors on your motherboard, you could potentially kill everything. So make sure you clean all of this mess up properly before trying to rebuild your system. So what I usually would do is I would use some type of like hand vacuum, and then I will wipe it down with a damp cloth just to make sure everything gets picked up inside of the case. Now that the rivets are drilled out, we can just go ahead and pull out that panel like it never was in the case in the first place. And now we have a massive basement for our power supply, and for cable management purposes as well. I keep this in so any of the cables don't protrude past this point and don't interfere with any fans that I'm going to be installing in the case as it is. So yeah. Now when we go ahead and put a big power supply in, goes in no problem, and plenty of space for cable managing down below, which is exactly what I wanted out of doing this. You might be asking yourself, well, why did he have to go and destroy the amount of storage you can have inside of this case now by removing that part of the hard drive enclosure? Well, all you need to do with a case like this is then add it back. And you're probably thinking, well, how can you add that back? Well, 5.25-inch bays are still a thing on the Silencio S600, and all you need basically is one of these. Now this has removable 2.5-inch drive sleds in it, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to fill this up with 2.5-inch SSDs so we get our storage back, and away we go. We can literally just slide this in and we're good to go, and then we can plug all the drives back in. Obviously there is another bracket to add back in, and literally all I need to do is just screw it back into place. It sits in there like that, and then it has the whole locking mechanism for that. So on our build, I'm taking it back a couple of years, and I will be having this in here. And this is basically just to save some encoded footage on the fly. So because this system is not supposed to be beautiful at all or inspire you to build your own beautiful PC, it's meant to basically be a black box sitting in a corner that encodes video to stream it on the internet with multiple incoming HDMI streams. So I have a plan for that too, which is also another option for this case when you buy it. So let me just whip over there and grab it so I can show you. As I mentioned, with our sample from Cooler Master that we got with this case, oh, how long ago was it, Claire? Like, it was a long time ago we got this case, right? Yeah. It's been sitting in Claire's office for a while. We got this extra little box that actually includes a solid side panel. Now, you can buy this case with this side panel as well. So never fear, if you really wanted to go that silent route, you can. Now, just a bit of a caveat with this side panel, the glass actually insulates it better with sound, incidentally. But this is for like a system that I would suspect having in a workplace or something like that, that just sits in a corner, that doesn't need to have bling bling in it. Yeah, it's basically exactly the same as the glass panel, but it's solid. And I appreciate this kind of stuff because sometimes I build systems, I don't want to look at it, and this is perfect for that because then it tempts me not to spend time doing RGB. And there you have it, ladies and gents, the most boring computer case in the history of computer cases, but actually pretty cool. I dig it, I really like this look. It's meant to look more professional, and I feel like if you wanted to spend time and have a professional looking, let's call it a pedestal chassis, because that's what they used to call them back in the day, you can have a pedestal chassis of your own. And I think this look is very sleepy. You can do some really cool sleeper stuff with this. And with that drive bay edition, it's gonna look pretty freaking sweet. I like it. I'm a data center guy. Less is more. Sometimes RGB is not the way, and I feel like more case manufacturers actually need to design cases like this for people who are building their own high-end workstations with great airflow. And I can tell you for a fact now that with the front panel that I just removed, the airflow in this system is going to be a whole lot better. And that excites me, especially for a computer that's gonna sit in the corner of a room encoding video whenever we stream. Very exciting. What do you reckon, Claire?
Hell.
Most boring video ever.
Maybe not.
Anyway, guys, if you like this video, I don't know, like the video. If you didn't like this video, let me know what you didn't like about it. Tell us what you hated about it. Hit that dislike button if you feel like that's something you need to do. And yeah, if you want to support the channel, hit the join button or join us on FLOATPLANE. Once again, thank you so very much for watching. I'm your boring boy Nick with Gear Seekers. You peak, we seek. And for those amazing people who stick around right to the end, you know who you are. I'm going to talk about the hardware right now that's going into this. We're going to put the 2970WX Threadripper, the 24-core 2nd gen Threadripper. It's going to have a stack of 4K capture cards sitting in the bottom here. I think it's also going to get a crazy M.2 RAID array as well, and it's going to have another butt ton of storage up the front too. So this thing is going to be freaking sick and overkill, and probably going to be custom water cooled as well with EK's new professional grade cooling solution. So this thing is going to be crazy. And that's also the reason why I didn't film the build today and I wanted to make this a video, was because we're still waiting for all of the fancy parts to come. We've got the CPU, we've got the motherboard, we've got the GPU, capture cards, and all the other stuff is on the way. So yeah, thanks for sticking around to this part of the video, because now you got a bit of a sneak peek. Thanks for watching.